This is probably my favorite slide in the presentation, but I hate the name of it. And the reason why is we named it the hidden cost of identity theft. And if you look at the first two bullet points, legal fees and then the late fees, penalties, and higher interest rates, those are not hidden. Those are going to hit you right in the face once you've had your identity theft. If you feel that you need to hire an attorney, the minimum fee for hiring an attorney will be at least $2,500, and they're going to want a lot of that right up front. That's not hidden. That's going to be something that you have to pay. That's coming out of your pocket in addition to any of the damages that have taken place. Late fees, penalties, higher interest rates. Sure, the credit cards might want to work with you. Sure, whoever else might want to work with you. But initially, just to solve the problem or to get creditors off your back or late fees off your back or feel that your credit is going to be further damaged, you might be forced to pay some of this. If you're 1 day late on some of these bills, it's easily $25 to $50. You might want to rectify this immediately. This is a problem. Higher interest rates, we know, is going to be an even bigger and long-term problem as you try to restore your credit and bring it down to a point that you're able to qualify for lower rates, and there'll be longer-term ramifications. The long-term credit score and the long-term higher interest rates really tie in with one another. You think you have a handle on things, you've solved the problems, you've worked with the credit reporting agencies, you've worked with your credit cards, your banks, wherever it might be. You've received, they've paid you back for any fees that you shouldn't have received. And then it's time to get a new car and they run your credit and you realize it's much lower than normal. Well, maybe something wasn't cleaned up. Now you're at the car dealership trying to salvage a deal as opposed to having to pay, $10, $20, $100 more a month on your credit cards, on your long-term credit scores and your credit card fees and any money you're trying to borrow. You want to be on top of this. Insurance would be the same way as we talked about any kind of medical procedures that you might have. There's also a product, and this kind of goes in the protection side of things a little bit too, that I just wanted to mention. There is something called identity theft insurance or cybersecurity insurance. Now, this is an insurance contract that you can tap into if you feel like you've been hacked or if there's a problem. Now, in a lot of cases, people are purchasing these contracts after they've been hacked to try to see if there's a problem down the road, it might help them. Well, there's a fee associated with them. There may not be that expensive, but it's still more than you might have been comfortable spending or might be putting some stress on your budget. But it is something to think about. Full disclosure, again, I mentioned I work with New York Life. New York Life does not sell cybersecurity insurance or identity theft insurance. We're not here to sell anything on that side of it, but it is a product that does exist and something that could cost you more money down the road. Credit consulting services, yeah, I get that. You're working with the credit agencies. Again, that money's going to be up front. You're going to have to pay for that, or maybe they take a portion of what they get back. But either way, there is a risk there. There is a cost there that will hit you. But I think the bottom three are the three that we really want to stress because the first 6 bullets or so, yeah, that makes sense. We get it. Legal fees, late fees. We've dealt with that before potentially. Insurance might be a new one for some people. But the emotional distress and the time, you can't underestimate. This is a crime. You are the victim of a crime if you've had your identity stolen. And now you don't know who has your identity, where it is. In a lot of cases, like I've mentioned before, this personal identifiable information, once it's hacked, it's available on places like the dark web that criminals access. All of your information could be available for $2. The person who's going to use that information, they're not attacking you living in, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. They're attacking someone that they were able to steal the information from, acquired for, and now try to get a quick credit card, a quick loan, a quick cell phone, whatever it might be. The emotional distress and time of having to deal with this. Every time you go to use your credit card, are you worried that there's going to be a problem? Every time you try to, treat somebody for lunch, are you worried you're going to be embarrassed that, now there's a credit problem with your credit card? You thought you had it rectified, you did, it was a period of time. But this is a real problem if it comes up, and something that no one should be ashamed with. There are absolutely psychological reports that show the damage that is done to people that have had their credit stolen, their identity stolen, and what you deal with. The creditor harassers, that's never going to be good. If you've ever gotten in any trouble with your credit, forgot to pay bills, hand up as a younger person, that happened. They don't let up. They call, they email. They're never going to stop. They're going to keep calling you. And if you have to explain to some outsourced credit service who's harassing you that, no, we're rectifying this. I'm working with American Express. I'm working with the bank. They may not want to hear that because they've got somebody on the phone who's being paid to collect on your debt right now, and that is going to be stressful. The time portion of it, we say we can't measure time, but yeah, we kind of can. Studies have shown that the victim's identity theft spend on average 1 day to 9 months to repair the damages associated with identity theft. 9 months. You're dealing with this for such a long period of time. It's affecting you at work. As we show on the stats here, it can affect lost wages at work. We have to take time off because you have to go to different locations, whether it be the banks, whether it be an attorney, whether it be credit monitoring services to help you with this. This is affecting your day-to-day life. One of the best things you can do is pull a free credit report. There are 3 major credit monitoring organizations: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Each one provides you with a free credit report every 12 months. Our suggestion is you pull one from each of them every 4 months. So in April, say you go from Equifax. In August, you go to Experian. And in December, you go to TransUnion. Now you've gotten 3 credit reports that monitor you basically quarterly, and you're able to keep track of things. This is vitally important. We'll have some information on their websites. This information can be found. You also can go to annualcreditreport.com. That's annualcreditreport.com, and find out information about pulling credit reports. There's also a phone number for them. It's 877-322-8228. This is at minimum, I think, what everybody needs to do. And a lot of us use credit. I use a credit monitoring service. I know many people do, so they're providing you this information. Take advantage of those free credit reports. That's what they're there for. You should absolutely be doing that. And share this information. Share it with friends. Share it with family. Protect your information. Check your credit reports, like we said. Pay attention to your billing cycles. Anybody who uses a credit card heavily a month, I know a lot of us don't carry a lot of cash. I could put myself in that mode. Sometimes I get that bill from American Express and I'm like, oh, that's a little higher than I thought. It's like, oh, that's right. We went to dinner that night. Okay. But you still want to go line item by line item and see, because you don't want to have a position where somebody is stealing from you or testing you again, as we mentioned, and seeing how these charges can be approved. You have to go through this information. It's part of, a 15-minute process when that bill comes in to monitor and make sure the information looks good. I can't say enough about the credit card companies. They want to stop this. They want to correct it. If you go to American Express, Visa, or MasterCard and you request that they look into a charge, they'll flag it right away and they will look into it for you. But if this is an ongoing process for you, it's something you're going to have to constantly deal with. Unauthorized charges. I avoid carrying your Social Security numbers. It seems like for a long time we were forced to carry our Social Security cards or numbers with us. I know when I was younger, it was one of the only things I had in my wallet. Why? Why is this still the way we have to check in for healthcare and so many other places for the last 4 of your Social Security number, or to provide that information when there's technology that can actually verify who I am a lot quicker? Don't share that information. Ask why. Why do you need it? Why do I have to go to my doctor twice a year? And I've been going to him for the last 11 years. They know who I am, but when I come in, I have to verify who I am with the last 4 of my Social Security number. When I walk in, they say, "Hi, Scott, Dr. K will be with you in a little bit," but I still have to provide that information. It's head scratcher. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but be careful how you use that information. Again, don't give out that information. Somebody calls. There's a lot of, I mentioned with the seniors, there can be a bullying technique on this. They call, they say, "Mr. Lanigan, you've acquired a debt of over $3,000. We can consolidate that debt right now for $500 if you pay right now, right now." And that doesn't sound right. Hang up. Don't deal with those calls. I think we all think we're smart enough not to, but we'd be surprised how many people do get themselves into trouble. Sign up for an identity theft service. Again, there's a lot of them out there. Different places that we use. Look into that. See if that's something, again, worth it. Worth a couple of bucks a month, a few bucks a year, whatever it might be. So this way you'll know. Because I know with the service I use, if there's something that looks fishy, I get pinged on my phone immediately. And I say, "Oh, no, we had to adjust some, you had to make a payment on something," or an unauthorized charge. Sometimes it's almost a little annoying. It's like, what do you mean this is an unauthorized charge? This is a normal charge. But at least they're doing their service, and I'll get to know about it as quick as possible. Now, I just wanted to stop here for a second, because when I talk about protecting your personal identifiable information and having a plan, you really want to think about how you're protecting your information. And I kind of go off script on this a little bit, and why I think it's so important that you regularly check your credit reports, check your mail, check your credit card applications, check where your information is used. And I really can't stress enough, probably having an identity theft service. I did a quick Google before we started this meeting. I did it earlier this morning. And I looked for largest companies to have been hacked and affected their customers in the last few years. And I could have printed volumes, and it's not an indictment on any of them, but these are companies where we use. Roku had a data breach, over 500,000 people affected. Vans, Bank of America, Norton Healthcare, 2.5 million people had their personal identifiable information hacked in the Norton Healthcare hack. Now, this was a big one, but this is happening. This is a scary one. 23andMe, this is the online genealogy service. I know it's very popular. People want to find out who their relatives were, where you're from. Yep, they were hacked. Over 1 million accounts were hacked. So now somebody's got your name, your date of birth, social security number, all your personal identifiable information, and who you're related to. Your mother's maiden, who your mother is. Now they have your maiden name. They can verify a lot of information. It's really scary. We talked about kids being hacked. I mentioned, my daughter having an email address. I don't know if anyone has kids and they play Roblox. It's an online game. They are crazy about it. They play with their friends. Well, they log on with some identifiable information. They were hacked. Over 4,000 members were hacked. Twitter. Twitter's sort of on the loser list, and there's a loser list of companies that have been hacked so many times. Twitter had over 200 million accounts where they think potentially bank email addresses, names, and names have been hacked between 2022 and 2024, and they report that they see this to continue. Twitter advised users that their information could be available on the dark web for as little as $2. This was their whole fee. This was their whole plan. Now you think about other companies, Facebook, American Airlines, Marriott multiple times, Uber, Marriott. Yeah, sure, I travel 50 nights a year. Thanks, Marriott. You had my information hacked. And just to be even more timely, here's a letter I got in July from Ticketmaster. Thanks, Ticketmaster. My wife got one 2 days later. I'm glad we got the Bruce Springsteen tickets. I'm glad we got the Taylor Swift tickets last year, but you're letting me know, yeah, most likely your information was hacked, and here's what you can do. Now, I give credit. I read through the whole letter. They're offering some financial incentives with credit monitoring and what to do, but these aren't fun things to receive. But you have a plan. My plan, freeze my credit, something you can do, something that I think is very important if you don't need it. But again, things you get in the mail, whether you open them, look at them, what is it, where your information is being stolen. Just be diligent. That's the best I can advise. Can't stress enough, you have the right to that free credit report. Choose one from the 3 main ones every 4 months, and you won't have to, you'll have your year covered. Stressed enough. Before giving your social security, ask, why do you need this? Where are you using it? Are you making photocopies of the form I just printed out? How is that going to be stored? How do you protect it? You have a right to ask those questions. Companies now often have to have a cybersecurity policy on how they protect their information, and they can share that with you. If you're working with companies that you're not comfortable with and what they're doing, or even trying to prevent that, I mean, I picked on Ticketmaster, but obviously it's a large company. They had a plan. Be careful where you share that information. Why? Ask why, and figure out, do I need to really do this? Protect your own computer, protect your phone, protect your information. Don't respond to spam. That seems common, but what about all those annoying spam texts you made? If you respond back, please do not text me, or, I am not Claire, whatever the situation is. Now who is ever trying to hack you knows they have a live one on the line. Delete and do not respond, and try to block. Update your software, update your antivirus software, your spyware, your firewall. If you don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do this either. Work with somebody who can help you. Work with online resources that can help you. It's very, very important. Create strong passwords. This is as big as it gets. I know it's a pain in the neck. I know it was much easier when your password was your child's name and maybe their date of birth. You have to use authentic passwords that are difficult to create, because if somebody steals all your private information, they can potentially figure out that, what my wife's maiden name, what our daughter's name is, pets' names. Pets' names are very popular in passwords. They can figure that out. You have to change that. The other one I would stress is if you log on to a system, and it says your password may have been compromised, not may. Consider that it was, and you have to change it there. I know it's hard to remember all our passwords. Again, when we used one, and that was really the one that we used, it was a lot easier. We just can't. And please share this information with others. I know, my parents are in their 80s, constantly stressing to them, and they get it because they've seen their friends get hacked. They could get hacked, they know that as well, but they have to change that information. It can't just be the grandkids, the dogs, etc. You have to do something about it. Encrypt your data. I think be wise about how you use your information, read privacy policies. While it seems common sense, what I would like to stress is that this needs to be, we talked about prepare and prevent. This is the process part of it. This is something that we have to be a part of our lives. It's not fun going through credit card statements and making sure every line item is correct. It's not fun constantly having to change your passwords and monitoring your credit, but it has to be a process of something you do so you're not a victim of a larger crime, something that'll take, what did it say, between 1 and 9 months to rectify, and the average cost of lost wages between $2,500 and $10,000, let alone the emotional side of things. We don't want to be in that position. If you have a process in place, you're going to be in a much better position to figure out what went wrong, how it went wrong, and how I'm going to resolve it. Purchasing online is another scary thing. There's a lot of quick ways in which we can purchase now. There's a lot of ways we can send money. You really want to, as we say here, verify the HTTPS and make sure that it's a proper website. It's pretty easy to change that and create a fraudulent website, a fraudulent link. If you hover your mouse over whoever you think you're emailing, whatever website you think you're on, it will show you what you're actually on, not just what it says right here in the bar. Take that extra precaution, especially if it's something you're not familiar with. I know technology moves quick, and sometimes we don't want to be embarrassed that we're not familiar, that this is the new way to pay for things and the safest and securest. Well, if I haven't heard of it, how do I know what it is? Take an extra step. Ask an extra question. Why do I have to share this information? What is it used for? Your identity theft is still, yes.
I'm sorry. Can I jump in for a second with a question, or at
Absolutely.
least a point myself? So to that last slide, if you could pull that back up, number 15, I believe.
For sure.
So, I mean, this is something that I do all the time, and I really recommend this myself. But whenever I get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day between my work email, my personal email, and I know we get a lot of them, just from companies that look like they're from Comcast, Verizon, phone companies, whatever else, credit card companies. I think this is key, in my opinion, when looking at any of these, to see if an email is fraudulent, to hover over who it's from, look at the sender, but don't click on it. And it usually will say, at Verizon.com or Verizon.net, if it is legit. A lot of these emails that come in looking like they're from Verizon or Comcast, they'll have a completely bogus email address, and that's how I typically will know, that they are fraudulent or they are a spam email or something else. So, seeing this, and when you're mentioning it, I just did want to give you my input that I check this all the time, but that's one of the first things I look at is I hover over the sender's email address or the sender's where they're sending from and make sure that does look legit.
It couldn't be more important, and it happens a lot. And like you mentioned with the Verizon part, legitimate companies, if you purchase something online or if they know your credit card, and I'm a homeowner, I go to Home Depot a lot, I'll get an email from Home Depot a few days later. Scott, how was the weed whacker you purchased, the garbage bags, whatever it might be? I'm not really interested in responding and rating this, but a couple times a month, I'll get a fraudulent email from Home Depot or Lowe's. And you could tell, again, because it looks a little off, and when you hover the mouse over it, you'll see that it is. They're just trying to get your information. And I'll give a super quick story about this. As I mentioned, I give this presentation a lot of times to companies, and especially focused on the 401k plan. The identity, not the identity theft, but faking an email account is a very prevalent way, especially within the workplace. I was giving this presentation talking about this. 2 people in the back room shot up their hands, happened to be in person. And it was the owner of the business and the HR manager. The HR manager came in the morning, saw an email from the owner of the company saying, "Hey, I need everyone's W-2s from last year. I want to consolidate and look at them." She said, "No, I'm not sending you the W-2s. They can get their W-2s online. We don't even have it." They start emailing back and forth. She notices that his tone is a little bit more aggressive than it normally would be. But again, a well-trained person said, "I'm not doing this. I'm not sending you this information." She sees her boss an hour or so later out in the hallway, and she's like, hey, what's going on? Why do you keep asking for these W-2s? And you know where I'm going. He's shaking his head. He goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. A well-trained person can detect where there's fraud, and that's this extra step. I'm in sales. I want to open every email I get. I hope somebody's, emailing me about all the business they want to place with me. It doesn't work that way. You got to be really careful about what you're getting, because there's no stopping this. They just continue to send more and more emails.
Hey, Scott, I would just mention also that my wife actually just showed me an email yesterday that she got from supposedly looked like Amazon.
Yep.
She buys this was a new one. We've seen them from multiple places, but this was a new one. She orders, a ton of packages throughout the week from Amazon, like a lot of families, and it had to do with recent orders that she put through. Kind of to click on the link, I guess they needed more information, or they click on and she showed me, though. She's like, take a look at the actual email, like the actual email that it came from, and it was Amazon. It wasn't even an A. It was AMZO. And
Yeah.
It's amazing how, they're making the email look great, but then if you follow up and really look at the email, how you can see it's different. And it's just amazing how they're trying to trick people on a daily basis. So just wanted to share that.
That's the goal, is that after you looked at that email for a minute or 5 seconds, maybe you realize there was something wrong. But quickly you're like, oh, who did I get an email from? Amazon? Now I'm in on it. It's pretty scary. We'll wrap up here again with, what you've done if this happens. Place an initial, you find out that your identity has been stolen. You find out that something has been happened. Place an initial fraud alert on your credit report. I think it's also very important that you can lock your credit. If you're not using your credit, you don't have the need for it, you're not opening new credit cards anytime soon, you're not buying a home, you're not buying a new car, lock your credit. Don't let any accounts be opened. And that puts a little bit more peace of mind to things. Step 2, order those credit reports. Again, you have one free from all 3 agencies and credit monitoring reports. If you are the victim of identity theft, they will share a credit report even if you've already ordered one. I assure you of that. Read them carefully, see if there's any errors. And the last step that we give here is create an identity theft report. This is important. When we talked about on, I think it was the second or the third slide, about the number of people who have actually filed a complaint or filed fraudulent charges have more than doubled in 5 years, but I mentioned how we know that number is higher. File a complaint. And this is a little bit of being a good citizen. If you file a complaint with the FTC and with the police, with a police report, is that there may be some commonality in how your information was hacked and somebody else might be hacked. So it might help potentially solve the problem, but it also might help somebody else not become a victim, because somebody will realize that, hey, we have a problem here. Follow these steps. Follow the plan that you've put in place for what you're going to do. This is sort of what you have to do, right? If you've been a victim, you have to do this. You can't sit on your hands. But if you've taken notes, if you've thought about this, talked about what you might do, if you've been monitoring your credit report on a monthly basis, checking for if any new accounts have been opened, if you've signed up for any kind of identity theft protection service and you've gotten pinged in the past, and now you're thinking, maybe there was a problem there. The sooner you're able to do this, the better. The sooner you'll have a chance of, if you can't solve the problem completely, again, that mental stress will be a lot shorter than the 1 to 9 months. We can reduce that, maybe reduce the financial cost of it, and potentially have the chance to, recoup the losses that you have. Our last screen today is, we talked a lot about these companies: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, the FTC's website. We have their phone numbers. Obviously, you can, look up this information. You want to have this information available. If there's a problem, file it away. They're there to help you. There are resources there that can help you. Make sure you're changing those passwords. I can't stress that enough. It stinks. We'll never remember them. I know it's so hard, but it has to be something unique and new and difficult. Update your software. Think about where you're using your personal identifiable information. Think about where you're using the phone. We all walk around with the phone, and we can do everything from it. You can almost file I think you might be able to file your taxes from it. You can do everything with this thing. You do all your banking, all your bill paying, all your transactions. I fly a lot. I cover a large territory. The amount of things you see people in a relaxed state on an airplane, their computer monitor or their phone or their iPad up, going through their bank accounts, looking at personal emails. I'm not spying on them, but you can tell. Think about your surroundings. That's the shoulder surfing, the dumpster diving of this. Think about what you're doing. A lot of times this is a professional hacker from a far off land or even in the United States who has targeted a group of people, and they're going to steal all that information and they're going to sell it. They're going to try to get credit cards. They're going to do all those things. But sometimes it is simpler. And you can stop the simpler stuff. That I know. You can shred your documents, be careful where you use your information. The larger scale stuff is really where you need that plan. So, our focus on this, it is the idea of not to scare, but to just show that this is a huge problem that is not going to go away. And I've said it a few times, prepare, protect, prevent. You have to have a process for this as well. And you have to realize that it can, and probably at some point in your life, will happen. The effects of it, how long you have to deal with, the financial costs of it, some of that I'd almost say is up to you, because if you don't have a plan or a process in place, it's going to be hard to nip this in the bud and it's going to be too long. We can't play victim on this, even though we have to go on the offensive and try to protect our information, protect the people we love's information, and do everything we can to not be in this situation.
Anthony, Scott, I really appreciate your time tonight, and I appreciate everyone for taking the time. I hope everyone got a lot out of this presentation. I know I did. And Scott, Anthony, anything else from you guys?
No, if there's anyone who has any questions, John, just let us know. We kind of rely on the presentation and the information that we've gathered, but if anyone needs help, with the process, we can help. You can share the presentation. If any of your clients do ask for it, that's more than okay.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah, John, I just want to say thank you for having us join you guys this evening, and hopefully brought some good value to you guys.
Without a doubt. I appreciate it, guys. And everyone, thank you for taking the time tonight. And if there's any other questions, follow-up questions after this, you know how to get a hold of me. Please reach out, and always here to help. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you again. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.